Breaking Sadiq KHN just launched the most explosive attack on King Charles in modern British history. And what the King did in response has sent shock waves through every corridor of power in Westminster. At 3:47 p.m. yesterday, Palace insiders leaked documents showing Charles personally intervened to block KHN's latest London policy. And the mayor's reaction was so furious, so unhinged that even his own Labour allies are calling for his resignation. We're talking about a constitutional crisis that could reshape Britain forever. And what happened in the last 60 minutes will shock you to your core. If you want to see how this ends, hit that subscribe button right now because the next 72 hours will determine the future of London itself. Here's what sparked this constitutional meltdown. 5 days ago, Sadiq Khan announced his most controversial policy yet: the London Citizenship Charter, a radical plan requiring all London businesses to sign diversity pledges or face crippling fines up to £50. His exact words were chilling. London will lead Britain into the 21st century whether the establishment likes it or not. But King Charles wasn't having it. The monarch, who usually stays miles away from domestic politics, did something unprecedented. He invoked a rarely used constitutional mechanism called Crown intervention, formally requesting Parliament review Khan's authority to impose such sweeping changes. The trigger was immediate and devastating. Within hours of the palace announcement, KHN held an emergency press conference outside City Hall. Television cameras captured what witnesses described as barely controlled rage. His face was flushed, his hands trembling as he gripped the podium. The unelected king, Khan began, voice shaking with fury, has just told the democratically elected mayor of London that he knows better than 8 million Londoners who voted for change. This is not 1.825. This is 2025. And I will not be silenced by a crowd that has forgotten the people it claims to serve. The crowd behind him erupted. Supporters cheered wildly. But the damage was already done. Khan had just declared war on the monarchy in language so inflammatory that constitutional experts immediately called it career suicide. According to senior Conservative MP Sir Graham Brady, Khan's words represented the most direct attack on royal authority since the English Civil War. The response was swift and absolutely brutal. But wait, because there's another layer to KHN's press conference that makes this even worse. According to 3 separate journalists who were present, Khan's media team tried desperately to end the event early. His press secretary, David Bellamy, was seen frantically gesturing from the side, making cutting motions across his throat, begging KHN to stop talking. But the mayor ignored him completely. He was on a roll feeding off the energy of his supporters, seemingly oblivious to the political suicide he was committing in real time. One BBC correspondent described it as watching a man destroy his career sentence by sentence while his own staff watched in horror. Khan then made it even worse by attacking not just Charles but the entire royal family. How many palaces does one family need? He shouted while ordinary Londoners can't afford rent. The crowd roared approval. But back in Westminster, Labour MPs were watching in absolute disbelief. Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper reportedly turned off her television halfway through, telling aides she couldn't watch anymore. This wasn't politics. It was performance art designed for Twitter. And Khan had just alienated every moderate voter who might have supported him. Meanwhile, British veterans who sacrificed everything for this country are struggling to find housing in their own capital. James Morrison, a 73-year-old Falklands veteran from Cutton, was recently evicted from his flat of 30 years to make room for social housing allocated under KHN's housing quotas. Morrison, who lost his right leg serving his country, now sleeps in his daughter's spare room, surviving on a pension of £900 monthly. I fought for Britain, Morrison told reporters with tears streaming down his face. And now Britain has no room for me in its own capital. His story went viral within hours, shared over 300,000 times on Facebook alone. While veterans like Morrison suffer, Khan has spent over £2 million on diversity consultants in the past year alone. We're talking 5-star hotels for advisory meetings, luxury catering for equality summits, private cars for community organizers who never set foot in working-class neighborhoods. Just last month, leaked receipts showed City Hall spent £18 on a single weekend diversity retreat at a luxury spa in Surrey. £18 while pensioners freeze and veterans sleep on family couches. The contrast is so grotesque, so morally bankrupt that even lifelong Labour supporters are turning their backs. Polling from yesterday shows 68% of Londoners believe Khan has abandoned traditional British values. Sarah Jenkins, a 62-year-old retired nurse from Barking who voted for KHN twice, recorded an emotional video that's been viewed over 1 million times. "I believed in him," she said, voice breaking. "I thought he cared about people like us. But he cares more about his image, his agenda, his war with the king than he does about struggling Londoners. This isn't political disagreement anymore. This is a battle for the soul of London itself." But then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. King Charles didn't back down. He didn't issue a quiet statement through palace aides or hide behind diplomatic language. At yesterday's royal reception for Commonwealth leaders, Charles delivered remarks that constitutional scholars are calling the most politically charged speech by a British monarch in 70 years. "The traditions that bind this nation together," the king declared with unmistakable intensity, "cannot be discarded by those who mistake temporary power for permanent authority. London belongs to all Britons, not to the ideological whims of any single mayor." The room fell silent. Diplomats exchanged shocked glances. Commonwealth leaders from Australia to Jamaica stood frozen, uncertain whether they'd just witnessed history or a constitutional crisis unfolding. Palace insiders revealed that senior advisors begged Charles not to speak so directly, warning it would trigger exactly the crisis we're witnessing now. But the king refused to stay silent. According to a source who was present during the drafting of the speech, Charles personally rewrote the remarks 3 times, making them stronger each time. More direct, more pointed. He knew exactly what he was doing. The source revealed he was drawing a line in the sand. The optics are absolutely devastating for Sadiq KHN. Here's a mayor attacking the crown while the king defends London's heritage and traditional values. Royal protocol demands neutrality, but Charles just shattered 70 years of precedent to stand up for ordinary Londoners being crushed by KHN's radical agenda. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because Khan's response to the king's speech proved he'd completely lost control. At 11:23 p.m. last night, Khan posted on Twitter in what appeared to be a rage-fueled rant. "The crown lectures me about tradition while protecting inherited wealth and privilege. I answer to Londoners, not to palaces." The tweet was deleted within 17 minutes. But screenshots spread across the internet instantly. Political strategists called it amateur hour. The kind of emotional posting that destroys careers. Labour headquarters went into damage control mode immediately. Sir Keir Starmer, who's been desperately trying to distance himself from Khan's controversy, released a statement saying Khan's views don't represent the Labour Party. That statement alone tells you everything about how toxic KHN has become. When your own party leader publicly disowns you, you're finished. The domino effect started immediately and cascaded with terrifying speed. Markets reacted first. The pound dropped 0.3% within minutes of Charles's speech, wiping £1.2 billion from London's financial sector. Currency traders called it the royal intervention shock. Financial analysts on Bloomberg openly speculated about London's future as a global financial hub if political instability continues. Political fractures open next. Labour's shadow cabinet splintered into warring factions. Deputy leader Angela Rayner initially defended Khan, calling the king's intervention inappropriate. But by midnight she deleted her statement and refused all media requests. Senior Labour MPs privately admit she's positioning herself to distance from Khan if public opinion turns uglier. Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves went even further, telling colleagues in a private WhatsApp group that Khan's behavior was embarrassing the entire party. That message was leaked to The Times within hours, proving nobody in Labour trusts anyone anymore. International reactions poured in within hours. French President Macron praised Charles for defending British traditions, a diplomatic grenade aimed directly at KHN's progressive agenda. In Canada, conservative framers applauded the king's courage. Even American commentators weighed in, with Fox News running a segment titled, "When Kings Must Save Cities from Their Mayors." CNN's international correspondent called it the most bizarre political crisis in modern British history. Social media exploded into absolute chaos. Hashtag Defend the Crown trended #1 globally for 18 straight hours. Hashtag CONUS Go hit 4.7 million tweets by this morning. Protests erupted across London simultaneously from Trafalgar Square to Tower Bridge. Thousands waving Union Jacks demanded KHN's immediate resignation. Counter-protesters organized by KHN's supporters clashed with royalists outside Westminster, requiring mounted police to separate crowds. 12 arrests were made, 7 officers injured, 3 police vehicles damaged. London hasn't seen this level of street chaos since the riots of 2011. Inside City Hall, the atmosphere has become absolutely toxic. Khan's senior advisors are in open warfare with each other. Deputy Mayor Sophie Linden allegedly threatened resignation during Tuesday's emergency strategy session. Sources say she screamed that KHN had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Another senior aide whose name we're protecting was overheard telling colleagues that Khan's political judgment had completely collapsed. WhatsApp groups with names like London First and KHN's Inner Circle have become digital battlegrounds where loyalty is tested and alliances shift hourly. The question isn't if Khan's team will fracture. It's when the first major defection happens and triggers an avalanche. Multiple sources inside City Hall describe KHN looking exhausted, isolated, almost paranoid. He's stopped attending routine meetings, preferring instead to huddle with a shrinking circle of true believers who tell him what he wants to hear rather than what he needs to hear. One longtime aide who spoke on condition of anonymity said Khan knows he's in the fight of his political life and he's not sure he can win. Another described him as checking Twitter constantly, obsessively reading every comment, every criticism, unable to let it go. But here's the layer that could change everything we thought we knew about this crisis. Leaked documents obtained by The Telegraph show KHN's office had been planning confrontation with the monarchy for months. Internal emails dated back to September reveal strategy sessions where KHN's team discuss manufacturing a conflict with royal authority to galvanize progressive voters. One email from KHN's chief strategist literally says, "We need a villain. The crown is perfect, unelected, wealthy, traditional, everything our base opposes." If these documents are real and if they show what multiple senior journalists claim, then this wasn't a spontaneous reaction to royal intervention. This was a calculated strategy to position KHN as the progressive hero standing up to outdated institutions. Think about what that means. KHN may have deliberately provoked the king, expecting public sympathy for the elected mayor fighting the unelected monarch, but he catastrophically misjudged public sentiment. Britain in 2025 isn't ready to abandon its crown, especially not for a mayor whose policies have made London less safe, less affordable, and more divided than ever. The optics of a premeditated attack on Charles would be absolutely devastating. It would transform KHN from passionate defender of democracy into cynical political operative willing to weaponize the monarchy for personal gain. Constitutional expert Professor David Starkey called the leaked documents explosive, saying if proven authentic, they represent the most cynical political manipulation he's witnessed in 50 years of studying British politics. Meanwhile, the Conservative opposition is moving with predatory precision. Opposition leader Kem Benedok held a press conference this morning that sounded less like criticism and more like a campaign speech. While Sadiq KHN attacks the king, Benono declared with controlled fury, "Real Londoners suffer under his failed leadership. Crime up 23%. Housing affordability at record lows. Small businesses fleeing the capital." And his response? Attack the one institution that unites this country. She then unveiled devastating statistics that KHN's team couldn't refute. Knife crime in London up 31% since KHN took office. Average rent increased 48%. Over 12,000 businesses relocated outside London in the past year alone. The polls tell a devastating story. Conservative support in London has surged from 31% to 42% in just 4 days. For the first time since Khan took office in 2016, Conservatives lead Labour in Greater London polling. Khan's approval rating among over 50 voters. Traditionally, his base has collapsed to just 19%. Even among younger progressive voters, his support dropped from 71% to 53% in 72 hours. Londoners aren't just abandoning KHN, they're running from him. Badenoch isn't just gaining ground. She's positioned to potentially win London in the next election, something that seemed impossible just weeks ago. The next 72 hours are absolutely critical to Britain's constitutional future. KHN faces three catastrophic pressure points simultaneously. First, a vote of no confidence scheduled for Monday where his own Labour councillors may turn against him. Second, emergency parliamentary debate Thursday where Conservative MPs will demand formal investigation into whether Khan exceeded his mayoral authority. Third, mass protests planned for Saturday that organisers predict could draw 100,000 royalists into central London. The question is no longer whether Khan survives politically. It's whether London itself can survive the chaos his confrontation has unleashed. Britain is watching its capital city tear itself apart in real time. Divided between those who believe may challenge outdated institutions and those who believe some traditions matter more than political ambition. This crisis will be studied for decades as the moment when progressive overreach collided with Britain's deep respect for crown and country. Not since the abdication crisis of 1936 has royal authority been challenged so directly by an elected official. At its epicenter stands Sadiq Khan, who looks increasingly isolated, increasingly desperate, and increasingly finished. So here's the question that matters most. Did Sadiq Khan just commit political suicide by attacking King Charles? Or did Charles overstep his constitutional authority by intervening in London politics? Who wins this fight? The elected mayor or the unelected king? What do you think? Should Khan resign immediately or does he have the right to challenge royal interference? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this constitutional crisis shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in London right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth about how Khan's radical agenda is tearing this city apart. But we will. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because tomorrow we're revealing the leaked documents that prove Khan planned this confrontation from the beginning. And what those documents say about his real agenda for London will absolutely terrify.